Rachel, you were like in our first season, episode 46. Oh my gosh. We're
Yes.
up to like 144 now. Can you believe it?
I'm
Jeez.
so proud of y'all and your features and everything. So it's an honor seeing the growth and being in the first wave. You know what I'm
Thank
saying? So
you. So, before we talked about how travel has impacted your life, right? And over the last year or so, I know you went through a lot of life shifts and
absolutely.
reflection. So, we wanted to catch up with you, see what's going
Uh-huh.
on with Miss Rachel Travels. Well, Rachel Hill, because Rachel Travels has changed a bit. Can you give us a little
Yeah, just a
background?
little bit. Yeah, so I have been doing the travel influencer thing for, a little over 5.5 years. And, when I started my brand, it totally wasn't to be a influencer or a blogger. It just kind of, happened that way at the beginning of the Black travel movement and all that stuff. And, I jumped on the wave. I saw so much opportunity to help people that look like us, travel more and, see different unique destinations like Thailand, like Mongolia, like all of these, places we've been. And so it was great. I've traveled probably in the last 5 years. I was just having a conversation with a friend, like 50 countries in the last 5 years, just off of, that path, that career choice. And it's been amazing. But I'm tired, like life happens and, travel can get exhausting and my priorities have shifted. And I'm just kind of at a place where I'm so fulfilled with the things that I've done and accomplished that I have taken a step back and I'm putting my efforts into helping other brands be able to do what I'm doing. So I've actually launched silently a marketing agency. So I've just been helping a lot of travel brands. I've been working with a lot of nonprofit travel brands that help students travel and helping them with exposure and branding and sponsorships and things like that. So it's been super fulfilling, super rewarding, just being able to take my experiences and make sure that other people, specifically young people of color, have the experiences that we've been afforded to have.
That's dope.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
Because you have
Appreciate
an
it.
MBA in marketing. So it would make
Yes.
sense that that's what you're good at. And marketing, I can tell you one thing is if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. It can be
No.
extremely difficult. So to
Yeah,
have somebody like yourself with your expertise helping businesses and, the youth especially because I mean, it's such a gift to give kids the gift of travel,
absolutely.
and not just vacation, but really on a cultural immersion type thing. The things that I didn't get to see a lot of the things that were in my history books until I was in
Hmm.
my late 30s.
Right. And that's because you had the resources, right? And then, maybe you had just the ambition. But imagine if you are coming from a underserved community, that may not even be a thing to you unless someone actually, presents you with the opportunity or plants that seed there. And so that's kind of where I've realized my heart is. So yeah, that's what I've been went up to lately.
Well, it's funny because the universe will have a way of having you come full circle. Because I feel like we always end up
Absolutely.
coming home in some shape or form. So the fact
Uh-huh.
that you're doing the marketing, but kind of like in a different angle, like it's always been
Hmm.
that the thing for you. But I want to take it
Yeah.
back a little bit and talk about the burnout. Um, how
Hmm.
did you know that that was happening? Like, what was going on in your life? What was going on in your body? Because it's something that
Hmm.
we talk and about with our audience is it's like notice these burnout signs and then be conscious
Absolutely.
enough to take the step back so that you can nurture yourself.
Yeah, so I think for me, I'm a Virgo and I'm not really into zodiacs, but apparently with a Virgo, we're perfectionists. We work really hard. And so that's always been like a trait, but also a flaw. It depends on how you look at it, right? And so I realized the first maybe 3 years of doing this, you have the energy, you're excited, you're getting all these opportunities. But as you grow, as your brand grows, there's just more work involved. You have more exposure. So now there's more opportunity, which again is great, but then there's more work. There's more things you want to do. You see different challenges in areas that you want to solve, but then trying to figure out how can I help these people over here, but also make more money over there, right? And so it got to the point where it was less about having fun and being authentic. And then it started to become a machine and operating as a machine and, always being on. And then having the social media part where you have to constantly feed the beast on top of the work in the back end. And then I just felt probably in the last 2 years, I felt my body just, in your body just felt slower, a lot tired. And then I knew I was burning out when my passion was dimming. And I was like, wait a minute, I love travel and I love talking about it and I love helping people. So when I got to the point where it became irritating or something that I didn't want to do, I was like, maybe this is getting too much. And then 2019 just whooped my ass. Like I'm very transparent about it. That it was just a lot for me and apparently a lot of other people. And so when some certain life events happened, I just realized, I'm like, wow, I've been tired for 2 years, and I slept for months and I was like, why? I felt like I couldn't catch up on sleep until I just filled my tank back up. And I think that's just what happens. You run, you're going until something happens that makes you stop and you realize you've been tired for so long. And now I can feel the stark difference between where I am now, feeling rested in my body, my mind, and my spirit from where I was before. So I don't know. It just felt like like my gas tank was just running out slowly. And then it wasn't until I got into a wreck that I was like, oh, child, you've
You're
been running
running
out of
on
gas for
fumes.
2 years. Yeah. So that's kind of what happened. But I'm grateful, when you look back in hindsight, that everything happens for a reason. And as long as you take those lessons, as long as you get the rest that you need, everything else will work itself out.
Yeah, it's funny that you had said that because, I'm feeling exhausted, but it's not
Mm.
because of travel specifically, it's my decision on how I'm traveling, right?
Right.
So I think that a lot of people get caught up in the locations, but they don't
Hmm.
see and understand the toll that it takes on our body just to travel alone.
Right.
Being on airplanes, being on buses, being on planes, trains, taxi. I mean, it's a lot, right?
Right.
And just not too long ago, I was really sick. I mean, there was whatever going around, period. I've heard a
Hmm.
lot of people had got sick with this upper chest cold, like I
Hmm.
feel like I never produced that much mucus in my life. And then, she got sick, and at the same time, we're traveling. And I was just like, what are we doing? Like, I could not, it seemed to linger for a good 2 to 3 weeks. And all I
Hmm.
kept thinking was, I need to stay still. I need to stay still, right? But as a traveler who has a message and a story to show, to tell, you have an audience to be
A
there with
burn to
and everything.
keep up.
Exactly. It was like, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. And like you said, we had to feed the beast, right? Posting, making sure you have, you're reaching people, you're answering emails, you're answering comments, you're, all of the above. Like there's so much work that goes into, and I don't want to call it just being an influencer. I want to say there's a lot of work and responsibility in sharing your story if you really want to
Absolutely.
share your story. You get what I mean? And we take it as a business and as a way of keeping almost like a journal on ourselves. And it's almost like
Absolutely.
a pat on the back to say, I did it. But at the same time, there's many of nights where I was just like, I'm freaking exhausted. I just
Hmm.
don't want to do anything,
Hmm.
and then I wonder, is this depression or is it just that I am moving too fast and need to slow down? And then I'm asking, it's just a lot
Right.
mentally, and I don't think people understand that part of what we do.
Absolutely. And, it's amazing, but you're right. There has to be a balance between going and discovering and exploring and resting. And you're right. You have to wake up early. You have to pack. Packing is always a thing for me. As much as I travel, you think I would have mastered it. I haven't. And what packing, unpacking, that's energy. Waking up early so you can take the bus or the Uber so you could be at the airport 2 and 3 hours ahead of time so you can it's so many different things. And you're right, when you do get sick you need to rest, but you don't feel comfortable in any random hotel, or, I need to get certain meds that I know make me feel better, but where do I find it? I don't speak the language. So it's a lot. And I'm grateful that we have these opportunities, but I'm also grateful that we can have these conversations about the not so pretty parts about it. So there is a balance so people can understand it's beautiful, but it's not a fairy tale like anything else.
No, it's not. It's interesting because I just wrote on my Instagram not too long ago about how there's always a trade-off for anything that you do in life. You know, not to try to put judgment whether it's good or bad, but you do have to make a trade-off for whatever thing
Absolutely.
that you want to accomplish. And I just want to point out two things that you said was like when it stopped being fun and when you start getting irritable. And like those are two
Yes.
telltale signs for me. I know for me, if I'm not having fun, it's a problem. If I start
Right.
being resentful or a bit bitter about it, then I know that I'm out of alignment. And I think too many people
Absolutely.
hold on to that feeling for far too long and then find themselves, like you said, at the tipping point, at the edge and all that. So it's like just recognize what's going on in your mind, your spirit, and your body and listen to it. And
Right.
take that as feedback to make those shifts so that you can be
For
at a better
sure.
place in your life. So, yeah.
While you were traveling, how long were you gone from the States?
So well, I lived in South Africa for about a year, and so that was great. But even in South Africa, I was still hitting the streets. I was like all over the continent. So I was gone for about a year, from 2018 to 2019, and before that, I purchased a home in Atlanta that I put on Airbnb. But it was doing so well that I physically couldn't be in my home. But at the same time, it was great for me because I was getting a lot of opportunities to travel and write and do press trips. So honestly, in the last 5 years, I have been home maybe a year out of 5 years because I would come back, I would hang out for a couple of days, maybe a week until I'm on to the next thing. So imagine 5 years of just nonstop travel. I would come hang out with my parents and I would be here maybe a couple of weeks. And then I'm like, all right, I hugged everybody's neck. I'm ready to hit the streets again. And now I'm at my parents' house and I'm like, oh, it feels so nice to be in such a familiar place. And like, I'm in Florida, so it's warm. Well, it's kind of chilly today. And by chilly, I mean, it's like 65 degrees or something like that. But, just being able to be in a comfortable place and resting feels really good. And I didn't realize I missed that for 5 years.
Yeah, I asked because I wonder if you ever have a sense or felt a sense of homelessness during your
Oh my
travels.
God.
Okay,
Oh,
so it wasn't okay because that's where I'm at. I'm feeling like Frances made a joke one time, and she was just like, look at you, you looking like you're homeless. I was like, that's not funny because I'm homeless.
Wait a
Like
minute. I
technically,
need some context because right now you're making me look like shit.
No,
There
it
needs to
was,
be some
it
context.
was
What was going
okay.
on?
I had on this sweater that was holy and all this kind of stuff, right? Like, I mean, whatever. But
yeah, you
when she's
definitely feel it. Oh
yeah.
my gosh, because I had clothes in Atlanta, clothes at my parents' house. I had the things on me, and then it got to the point where I'm like, okay, if I know I have guests checking in, I need to run into the house and switch out some things really quickly, or I would forget whatever, and then I'm like, wow, I don't have enough whatever. So you do start to feel homeless. And then even being in Atlanta, if I happen to be there, and there were guests in my house, I'm trying to figure out who am I going to stay with, who's going to take me in for a couple of days. And then there's that part about, you don't want to overextend your welcome, right? And even though your family and friends are like, you can absolutely stay here as long as you need to, there's still that personal thing of, I don't want to be here for 2 weeks until I get my next assignment or anything like that. So you do start to feel a bit like a burden. You do feel homeless, and you don't have a home anymore because you don't create that warmth that you would in a home, and those memories that you create in a home, even if it's not your home that you grew up in or the one you purchased. Just having a place to be where you can cook dinner, even stuff
Yes.
as small as like cooking a home cooked meal or making tea or coffee or being able to sit on a balcony and just vibe and journal. you miss those things because you're constantly
Moving.
moving. You don't have a chance to sit down and just be grateful for the stillness. So
Girl,
yeah, that
preach.
homelessness is a real thing. And I also got tired of that too. I got tired of feeling like a vagabond and displaced, really.
Yeah.
No,
So
we
yeah.
are.
No, I get
And
it.
I have to say it's our choice, right? Because this is the life we chose to do. So I try to still, go into it with gratitude as much as possible and not always feel like I'm complaining. But the one thing that I do value and appreciate about you for who you are is that you share the other side, where I'm always saying, people that have a platform always share the glitz and glam, but never really are transparent enough to share the nonsense. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, this is our life, but there's so much that goes with it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it takes a lot to be transparent, and a lot of times people want to hold on to everything and don't want to look a certain way or whatever the case may
Mhm.
be. And that shit, I threw that shit out the window. I'm like, look, this is me. This is my
Right.
life, and this is what it is. But I'm at that crossroads where, you know, I would say into 2020, I have literally spoken to the universe and said, I need to be grounded in 2020, because
Mhm.
2019, I think I've lived or moved around on 3 different continents and
Yeah.
lived in multiple countries and cities. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Whether I'm there for a month to 3 months to 6 months to 2 weeks to whatever, I'm done. Like 2020, I need to like be settled somewhere, or I'm going to burn myself out completely. And I'm
Yeah,
starting to feel that burn. So I totally relate to what you had said.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel that way too. Even just like I have family in Boston, and I'm staying with my cousin, but even that gets a
Mhm.
little,
Mhm.
uh,
Okay, I'm here with my mama and I love
friction.
her, but I'm like, oh God, I gotta figure something out soon.
I was like, there's too many people in this house, Lord. It's me, my son, my sister, us Caribbean folk, we pack up. But I'm just like, yeah, this is so temporary, so temporary.
Hmm.
So, do you plan? So are you continuing to stay in Johannesburg? Like, is that kind of going to be the home even for 2020?
So, I think with South Africa, it's always going to be home for me for sure. That's one of those places, and I'm sure as travelers, you know that certain places you go to, a piece of your heart is just always going to be there. Like no matter if you never return home. At Johannesburg, I think that part of my life maybe isn't over, but for now it's put on pause because there's a lot of other things I want to do. So this year, the plan is to move to Europe, and there's a program that I applied for. So I know I'm gonna get it. So I'm just waiting for that. So I'm just excited to, still explore other places. But yeah, so South Africa is in my heart. I even plan to purchase real estate there in the near future. But yeah, I'm still open to exploring so much of the world. But I think now my travel style has changed from like moving so quickly and or a lot versus just like having a home base and traveling and coming back, which when I was in South Africa, that's what I was doing. I realized that's what I need at this point in my life. Having a home base, being able to travel and then come back to a home that I can cook and that I have, plants that I water every week, those little things that you don't really think about. So yeah, that's kind of where I am now is again, the security piece of it. Still having to travel, but being still. And if I don't want to travel or if I'm too tired to travel, then saying it's okay. I don't have to find a place to sleep for a couple days. I have my home, and I'll go when I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I guess the word for 2020 is home base. Shit. Like, it's
Yes,
Place that you can walk
important.
around
security,
naked in.
grounding, sit
But
my ass down.
yeah, cooking is important. I mean, it sounds so small, right? But like I had even posted on the Instagram, we're in this beautiful like townhouse in Playa Car, and every day that I wake up, I'm like, this is how I want to feel every day. We have
Yes.
groceries in the refrigerator. I'm cooking. even the smallest things of having an oven, because we lived in Asia for 2 years and they don't
Right.
have ovens. So I wasn't able to bake for almost 2 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
So just having the small, and people don't realize what is important to you until you no longer have it. And cooking is
Mm-hmm.
extremely important to me. It actually makes you feel like,
Home.
a bit of home. Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly, a bit of home. So we talked a little bit about how it feels to actually feel displaced, right? And how moving around is taxing on your body or whatever. Now, one of the things a lot of people ask is how was dating life with all the moving around, right? Because I don't
Mm-hmm.
know about y'all, but I tend to meet people who are fascinated with our lifestyle, right? And they're just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then you start talking to them and they can't or don't.
I already know.
Yeah, they're not able to make that leap, that mental and
Right.
emotional leap.
Yeah, it's a special lifestyle, let's just say.
It's very special. I will say I've had over the past 5 years different dating experiences for sure. I could probably write a whole book, okay, a
Get on it,
bestseller.
girl, get on
Um,
it.
but I can say now I've had those experiences of people that are super fascinated, but they're like, I couldn't do it. So I'm like, well, unfortunately, we're not a good fit, but that's okay. Maybe if I was, here in this particular city, it will work. But then I've also had great experiences where I've dated people who travel just as much, if not more than me, which is nice and refreshing as well. And we've traveled together and different things like that. So I would say it depends. And I think if you make it a priority or, tell the universe this is what you want, it will present to you. But you also have to be ready for that, right? Because the person that I was seeing that traveled just as much as me. So then there's that part of how can we see each other? Can we meet up here? And I know you're busy this weekend, and that whole thing, which was it's cool, it's fun. But then there is, you're a human, and you might just want to go to the grocery store with someone and cook a meal and just sit down and smoke one or whatever you're
Yeah.
into, and you may not have those opportunities traveling so much or, seeing someone who is long distance, right? So I think again, because I am just in a different place in my life and I've done so much. I'm in my early 30s and I feel like I've lived two lifetimes at this point. So now my priorities have shifted and, like you said, the home base and the security so I can do more of the normal things like have a more consistent dating life, cook more meals, get more plants, do like hobbies that I have to do in a place. Like I started hot yoga and I can't just pick up hot yoga anywhere you go, right? Like you normally have to have some sort of membership or, be consistent with it. So those are the things I'm looking forward to is actually like getting back into the things that I used to do, but you need to be still for. And and again, having a more consistent dating life because I'm in one location.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but not terrible. Well, like I said, I could write a book.
You know
But
who
yeah, so it just
You know who stands out to me when I talk about the dating thing is Onika. Onika has a unique experience or a unique story. Her and her husband were, 5 years on different continents and
um,
they still made it work. And here they are 12 years later and have now a beautiful baby girl, spending a lot more time together. And I go back to if you want something, you're gonna
absolutely.
put in the work for it. So it's not that it's difficult; it's that you're making it difficult because you're already in that mindset that it can't work. You know?
Absolutely. And some things just don't work or the timing is off or whatever, and that's okay. But you're right. Now I'm at a place where I can say, okay, y'all, I'm ready. I have time now. And I'm at a a place where I can show up and be a better partner because I'm well rested. I don't have anxiety anymore. I'm not, all over the place and trying to figure out what's next or who I'm staying with, right? Like that doesn't feel good, to show up and, you're frazzled because you're like, I don't know if I have enough t-shirts for the next week or, something like that,
Seriously,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, and that's very minute, but that's a thing, right? Like when you are not feeling like yourself or feeling grounded and secure, it's hard to show up and be a good partner. And so that's something that I realized through my resting process, that you have to be whole within yourself and rested and ready for that if you want to attract something healthy, which is where I am now. I've attracted some not healthy things, and I'm like, okay, I have to also be what I want, right? So that's something I've been focusing on as well.
You mentioned the process, the resting process. What was that process for you?
Yeah, so after being burnt out, like, I've never been a person that doesn't do something. Like I said, I don't know if it's because I'm a Virgo, but I'm just a hard worker. My parents are hard workers. We're from the deep South. It's like a thing that's ingrained in our DNA. And I just think as Black people, we just work hard, right? And so resting felt like literally not opening my computer, which felt foreign to me for a month of just like not opening it to do some work or do some emails or just do anything. And it also looked like, we met actually in Mexico and like going to the beach every day and just, actually starting to jog every day or just relaxing and doing things that didn't require work. And I also realized over the past 5 years, probably 80% of the things I did was work, just work, 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 and not more play. And I think that happens a lot when we get out of balance and alignment, like Francis said, where we are doing all this work and all this travel, but forgetting the fun part and the play, what brought us to it in the first place. So, yeah, it looks a lot like getting off of social media because I feel like it's making people a little crazy these days. But taking a step back from social media, reading more physical books now, which has been like great for me because I used to love to read and I realized I haven't picked up a physical book in however long, right? So it just looked like getting back to what made me happy. And I forgot what made me happy. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot I love to read. I forgot that I love just it because you are constantly on the move, constantly traveling, and you're constantly building and working in your brands. So for me, it just looked like clo- clothes can be painful, but once you get through it, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like I'm feeling good now. I figured out the balance again.
So now that you know these things, let's talk a little bit about just last year and versus this year. So this is a two-part question. So what are you leaving behind in 2019 and what are you cementing for 2020?
So, I was having this conversation with a girlfriend, and I was telling her that even though the last year of the decade sucked, like, she was like, you're totally allowed to say that. I had such an amazing decade. Like, the past 9 of the 10 years were fantastic. Even when I was in my corporate job, I lived the corporate girl life, the New York City life, that whole thing, and then the travel. And I definitely learned a lot just through my travels and how powerful I am with creating and manifesting the life I want. But I think in 2020, I feel so authentic now. And not that I didn't feel authentic before, but I realized that a lot of the things that I was doing were for other people, whether it was for what society says that we're supposed to do with our lives, what our parents, set out for us, and not that they have, ill meaning, but they want the best for you. But that may look like only one trajectory. And then even when it came to creating a travel business and creating based off of what people wanted and not what I felt anymore, right? And so I learned those things and it was great. But I know in this year and in this decade, it's being authentic to me and what feels really good to me. Because if if it doesn't feel good to me, then I can't show up authentic and helpful and radiating to others in the most impactful way. So I definitely left behind, doing things for others and focusing more on what feels really good to me. And I know that if it feels good to me, I can show up and be the best for those that I need, that I'm here to help or to impact. So I think that's definitely what I'm taking away, is just being as authentic and as real as possible and staying in that balance. And now that I know what it feels to be out of balance and what it feels to be in balance, I'm like fighting for my peace and just making sure to stay there. And I know it's a wave, but now I know how to ride it. I'm a surfer now, so that's how I'm feeling.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Rachel, oh my gosh. Thank you so much for taking the time out to come back onto Chronicles Abroad and bless
Yes, thank y'all
our
for having me.
audience with your gems. Because I mean, honestly, the takeaway I get from this a lot is to listen to your body and understanding what it is that does and does not work for you, so that you can be a better individual, whether that's a better partner, a better friend, a better, just individual wholly, so you can do everything you need to do for yourself without, killing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the fact that you went through all that, now you know who you are here to serve.
Absolutely.
And how to serve. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing more of your
Yes.
new ventures in 2020. And
For
even
sure. I
though
have to come visit y'all in Mexico.
I'll be here for a few months. I don't know. The funny thing about it is you might see me in Africa, girl, because I think that's going to be where I'm going to settle for about a year or two. Maybe just sit
Yeah,
still somewhere.
absolutely. Let me know. I would love to help you because that's my jam. So yeah.
Well, you only have to tell me once. I'll be on that
That's
website.
it.
Hey,
She's
girl,
gonna be
leaving.
there like tomorrow, knocking on your door.
I'm
Well,
through.
Rachel, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing what's going on with you in 2020. You look radiant,
Thank
and we
you.
wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Rachel.
Love y'all. Appreciate it.
Mwah.
Mwah. Bye.